Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AggieCentral podcast. If you're a Hoosiers fan watching this right now, you're thinking to yourself, did I click on the wrong video? What is this? This is not the red that I need to see. That's what is that, maroon? Doesn't even say the right thing on the front. It's supposed to say sick face or something like that, right? So are you in the right spot? Maybe. Here's the thing. I'm an Aggie. That's why it says maroon out. That hence the color, right? What I did was I covered Miami and A&M for 2 weeks in depth. I gave Miami fans the best, most objective, unbiased opinion as I possibly could. Just fair takes. Ended up even picking Miami to win that game. They beat us. They moved on. I thought, you know what? I can bring that to the table for the remaining teams, and they've kept winning. So here we are. So don't worry if you stick with me for just a little bit. I'm pretty sure the cultness won't rub off on you, or will it, Miami fans? You have to let them know that. So here's what I do. All I do is I look at some film from the games that both teams have played, and just give a seasoned common sense take. I'm no coach. Okay. I'm just going to look and observe and give my opinions. Okay. No big deal. You don't have to worry about wondering whether or not they're objective or unbiased. I'm going to show you the clips. You can use your common sense to decide if I'm doing that fairly. Okay. So, Miami fans, before we get into this, I want to tell you about them. They are probably one of the most based fan bases out there. They want to know stuff about the other team. They want to know where they can get better. An hour after their game against Ole Miss, they were sitting there saying, if we do this and do that, there's no way we're going to, go up against whoever wins that Oregon Indiana game and do anything. And we're going to get our brain beat in if we play like that again. So they're very they have very base takes on this. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is run through these clips. I'm gonna show you an early look of what Indiana brings to the table for Miami fans, and for you Indiana fans, I'll show you some of what Miami brings to the table. Okay, so let's just jump into it. Start with the Hoosiers and what they bring to the table. Actually, let's go over here. Yeah. So I want to start with the Heisman winner. Where else should we start, right? With Mendoza. Let's watch what this guy can do. I'll show you each clip multiple times. Don't worry. And then I'll give you some commentary the second time through. Here we go. Nothing real flashy. Let's watch it again. Okay, so I'm pretty sure he's throwing to Surratt there. I could be wrong about that. I'm still getting to know Indiana's team. Indiana fans, chime in. Let me know if I'm getting anything wrong. We're early in on this, and yes, I've not covered your team before. What I am most impressed right now with Mendoza is the ability to throw the back shoulder. It's going to be something that's going to probably carry a lot of weight throughout this game, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. But Mendoza, like I said, he's a Heisman winner. He's a junior. He's a 3,300-yard passer, 41 passing TDs. He adds another 6 TDs rushing. 9.5 yard per attempt kind of guy, and he's completing 73% of his passes. He's definitely a dangerous guy. Let's see some more. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, this time it's definitely Surratt. And you see him making this catch through what was probably pass interference. It was very, very handsy play, and to come down with that. Now, it's also a testament to Mendoza and what he's doing. I'm very, very highly impressed with that particular throw. It's very hard to defend, and it was defended well. But you got to take your hat off to Surratt for what he was doing. Now, he's a senior. He's an 800-yard receiver, not quite to the 1,000-yard mark. And he's just behind, I think, Omar Cooper, who's also an 800-yard receiver or yard receiver. He adds 13 TDs this year, though. And so that's why he's probably the leader of the group. He's big and rangy, and he's got all kinds of NFL vibes to him, in my opinion. Probably most so because of the ability for them to throw these NFL type plays where you don't see a lot of this back shoulder business. in college football, especially not completed like this. So, highly impressed right off the bat with the ability for Mendoza and Surratt and the rest of the core to be on this kind of level. Okay, how about the first play of the game? And that's Mr. Pons. Hmm. Uh, really, really good feel for the game. One more time now. And here's the thing: Pons, he leads the team in passes defended. He's also got a couple ints on the year, a forced fumble, and clearly a TD. So he's adding points to the table. My take on him, just right off the bat, just quick reaction. He's not just off of one play. I've watched the entire game and multiple others, so I'm not just giving you some sort of wild take, but um, pretty pretty well close to a lockdown corner. He's up there. He's one of the better ones I think that I've seen. He plays with what I would assess to be a very seasoned approach. So, not going to go out on too much of a limb to give an opinion on what he does. It's just very impressive right now. And to do that first play of the game and set the tone, what more could you want out of the guy at this moment, right? But the Hoosiers, with a finesse play like that, they're also very physical. Very physical up front, very physical running the ball. And this is Hemby. Let's watch him. One of the things that stands out to me the most about this Indiana team, I would say so far, other than what you're seeing with the star offensive players, is that they execute really, really well. Okay. Hemby is a senior 1,000-yard rusher. He's got 7 TDs and he's good for 5 yards per carry. He's very sudden. The few games in the playoffs that I've watched all of them, not a few, but obviously I started paying much more attention once the playoffs started because I watching A&M on Saturday. He's very sudden. He's very sudden. He's very quick, and he doesn't miss. The offensive line doesn't miss. Not that I've seen anyway. So very consistent, very physical, and very sudden out of this guy. Overall, Indiana is very, very solid team. I mean, just like Sig's face is just very solid. They don't have too many highs, they don't have too many lows. Although it looks like his face is always on a low. However, um, anyhow, that's just a quick look at what Indiana brings to the table. If you're watching Indiana, let me show you some of what Miami's got. Okay, I've been very impressed with this team. They would tell you that they did not play their best game against Ole Miss. So me putting out 4 plays that are highlights is probably going to feel a little bit like, hey, there was a whole other side of this game. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the bad as well and some of the things that they're going to need to work on. We are definitely going to hit that. Um, let me get some of this out of the way. There we go. And yeah, let me just kind of run through these. You can make up your own mind what they do. And that's Mr. Malachi Tony right there. For you Hoosiers fans, you definitely need to know this guy. He's their leading receiver. He just surpassed 1,000 yards rushing. Hat tip to that guy because we've been waiting for him to get past that for a few games now, and he finally did. Sorry about the broadcast. That's them backing that up. And you look at that offensive line flow right there, man. So this is a really great example of how Miami can execute. I know they're going to feel like, hey, we didn't do this a lot throughout the game or as consistent. But when they do this, and I know this can be true for any team to say, well, when they do this or when they do that or whatever, this is normally their MO. Okay. A lot of what happened against Ole Miss, and we can conversate about whether or not Ole Miss had the effects on the team to make that happen. But a lot of what happened is not their normal MO. Okay. They do this a little bit more regularly, not always usually this explosive of a play out of them, but it's definitely possible in their wheelhouse. All right, let's look at an adjustment that they made coming out of halftime. Well, it's not fully out of halftime, but you get the idea. Let's restart. Okay, kind of an unassuming play. Let me hit you right at the beginning. Okay, so earlier in the game, they were doing some of these screen passes, but on this particular play, they backed up Tony a little bit more. Now Tony's very quick, changes direction extremely fast. That is definitely one of his strengths, and so they weren't getting that out of this game. They backed him up what looks like probably at least 2 or 3 yards to give him just a little more space after he's caught this ball because Ole Miss was doing a really good job defending it, and because they did that, it gave him a little more room to work, and he makes 7 take the wrong angle. Really good example of what the coaching staff brings to the field as well out of Miami. I think they definitely had some of their issues in this game. I didn't like some of the play calls at times. I thought they should have leaned on the run a little bit more, and maybe even more so on defense. I got to wondering, but when they're hitting on all cylinders and when they've got a good solid game plan, they're definitely lethal. Okay, here's one more. And this right here is the quintessential Miami play. I said I wasn't going to talk through the play, but man, I tell you what, this play right here is it was supposed to be a 6 or 7 yard gain. It turned out to be 23. That's the quintessential Miami play right there. Hard-nosed, blue-collar play. Push it down your throat, out your you-know-what, and down the field. Lean, lean, lean. This was starting the third quarter, and I thought I'd see this a little bit more out of them throughout the entirety of the game. Let's see something a little bit different. And they continued to lean on it. Ole Miss did a good job, and I want to point out something real quick. Ole Miss was shading over to the right side on this and different sides throughout the game. It looked like Miami finally picked up on this and just completely ran to the opposite side of that. Didn't even have to worry about the edge on this one. But the inside D tackle tries to go around. He just can't make it. Miami's just they're very physical on the offensive line, very physical on the defensive line. I'll show you more of the defensive side a little bit later, not today, a different time. So to give you that kind of take, like I said, blue collar, it starts on both lines of scrimmage, and that's where they flow from. Okay, very, very physical on both sides. Now, leading into that, these particular runs, these things that they did well, happened as a result of an adjustment. Let me show you what they adjusted from. Okay, so here's a run. Let's start this over. Watch it again. It's a 3-man rush. You see? In case you didn't believe me, I know the clip's quick, but there it is. It's a 3-man rush. Okay, you see the 2 guys right in the center. That's Brockermeyer and should be Okunlola, I think. Earlier, we saw when they did well, they stayed on these blocks. Right here, he just lets off a little too soon, and the guy about across his face. Okay, so yes, that's got to change. Yes, it's an easy change. Yes, I've got some thoughts as to why this was taking place, and we'll talk about all that as the week goes on. But let me show you another example. This one illustrates it much better. Watch the second view. Okay, this time it's McCoy. Okay, so Brockermeyer and McCoy let the nose tackle come through instead of getting on that block, holding that block, so that that lane could actually be established, right? And Tony sees that. And I like Tony back as a running back, but he sees that and has to go out wide. And of course, Bell is probably not thinking, well, I need to make sure I'm you know, holding the edge here instead of opening the lane. And then he goes outside and Edge makes the actual play. Just some miscommunication issues that were going on throughout this particular game. I was really a bit confused with why some of that was happening, whereas it hadn't happened before. But I do, again, I have thoughts. Let me show you something that happened. All right. And this is versus Lacey. I wanted this kind of shows you the difference in watch their tackle. Okay, they're going to close that off, right? They're going to get that first level block to start with, and then he's going to transfer over to the second level. But it's going to be solidified before he moves over, which is why this play was successful versus the one that we just saw Miami roll. Boom, he cuts back over. Where it looked like the play was actually going, they ended up making the lane go inside. Watch it one more time. In my opinion, the only bad defensive situation that happened on that particular play, that was just, I mean, up front, I think it was just a good play by Ole Miss, but the safety just takes the wrong angle. Watch him step up instead of going right to our left, his right. Oh yeah, and then he's trying to come back around, and he almost, it's like he's making a J route or something, and he's behind him. Something they would love to have gotten back. This particular play is not actually their MO either. Miami's a very sure-handed tackling team. Usually takes good angles. They're very well coached on defense, and this is just another quick example of a couple things that were awry in this game. That doesn't even address the what four possible uh, turnovers that Miami could have forced that they didn't and just kind of got away from a little bit. They had multiple opportunities, most of which I would say should have 100% been interceptions and turnovers. Okay, one more, last one. Okay, you're probably wondering what am I looking at here? Why are you showing this to me? This was some things on defense I was talking about, and I'll stop it. Okay, so we're in the red zone here, right? I guess we're just 1 yard out. Give me the red zone. You've got the back of the end zone to work with, right? So we do still have the two high safeties here. They're definitely playing 10 and 12 yards off. The safety on this one just takes a late reaction because we've only got one linebacker right there in the middle, right? So we got a four-man rush, I'm pretty sure. And the way this rolls out is that the linebacker's got to take the one gap. It's not called the one gap. He's got to take one of the gaps, and then the safety's basically got to come up, and it's a late reaction. Which if he'd been up there sooner, he could have maybe limited this to 2 or 3 yards, maybe less, but that would have been probably a little generous. However, he waits with the play action that's taking place here, the RPO, and he gives it just a little bit of time to make sure he knows that when he comes up, he's not going to be letting something get by him. And it's not that I don't get that or understand that, but you can just see. I would also say this is not something they normally would do. And of course, that's a different player, but Thomas right there makes obviously a better tackle. That is a very difficult tackle, running up to do that, making sure you don't take the wrong angle, and when you do, you at least make a solid hit so that you're turning the play back. So just a couple little small things that I saw going on with this game that I thought made the difference in this, being a 4-point game versus a maybe 17-point win. And that's just a little bit deeper assessment after having looked at the game a couple times. So that's what both teams bring to the table as an early look. I'd like to jump into this a lot deeper. So, one of the ways to do that is to comment. Tell me about your team. Let's talk ball. That's what I'm here to do in the large part, anyways. And share with your friends. If you share something on YouTube, it's going to say, man, they like this. I want to get back to that. So again, all I'm doing is offering a common sense, non-national, regular guy kind of take. And if you like that, if you're blessed by that, I love that. And let me know in the comments, and I would appreciate that. Be back in a couple days. Probably going to do three keys for each one of these teams. I really like both of them. And the only thing for sure at this point is that we're going to get a fresh blood as a national championship. So thanks for rolling with me, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.